Okay, let's talk about costing systems, no? Or job order costing and process costing. In this discussion, we're going to differentiate the basic costing systems, your job order costing and process costing. Dali lang yan. But first, let's review, no? Let's talk about cost accounting, yung subject natin ngayon. Basically, as of this point, you should already know that this is an area in accounting which is concerned in cost determination, analysis, and control for the purpose of financial reporting and decision making. Okay, so tatandaan natin yun. For financial reporting and decision making. When we say financial reporting, again, this for external reporting, okay, for decision making, most of the time for internal reporting yan. Now, this supplements financial accounting by providing details of costs figures found in generic financial statements. Again, when we say generic financial statements or general statements, these are statements that are prepared using certain standards. Now, for example, sa atin, you have your generally accepted accounting principles. Okay? So, ayun. Now, it also enables management accounting in processing cost. Yan. Cost data which will be used in analysis and decision making. So in short, yung subject natin pala na ito, okay, is partly for financial reporting, okay, and partly for decision making. Okay? So ayun. Now what about cost systems? Okay, so in our earlier videos, okay, we have discussed the basic cost flows, okay, and in that discussion we have introduced the non-cost system, also known as the periodic system. For cost systems naman, this is also known as your perpetual systems. Okay, so as of this point, dapat alam na natin, okay, what's the difference of a periodic system and a perpetual system. Okay, this is a more detailed approach in accounting for costs. Okay, sabi niya, perpetual approach accounts for the flow of costs in detail. In detail. With the intention of providing unit costs and inventory costs for periodic reporting. Okay, so not like your periodic systems, wherein the main intention is only to arrive at the cost of goods manufactured, sometimes cost of goods sold lang. This one, hindi. It's more detailed. And then costs are accumulated by products and batches. Okay? When we say costs are accumulated by products and batches, although i-discuss natin mamaya, okay, this one is for job order costing. Or by process and by departments, ito na po yung process. Ayun. Process costing natin. Okay, so some preliminaries before we go to the differentiation of the two. Okay, as of this point, okay, you should know the following. Okay, this is just a short checklist, no, of some prerequisites. And now, if you don't know these items, okay, feel free to look it up, no? Pwede nyo naman siya i-google, or these are found in most of the textbooks in cost accounting. So first, you should familiarize yourself with the chart of accounts used by manufacturing firms versus merchandising firms. Okay, especially in the asset section, no? In the asset section, there will be major differences in the inventories. Kasi for merchandising, you'll have the merchandise inventories. For manufacturing firms, you have the raw materials, work in process, and finished goods, which we already discussed earlier, no? In the income statement naman, okay, in the income statement or your nominal accounts, chart of accounts nga pala yung usapan natin, no? Okay, here you have your cost of goods sold, no? Cost of goods sold, which is easily computed for merchandising as, diba, you have the beginning balance of your merchandise inventories, and then you have here the ending balance. You have here your net purchases, and then you now have here your cost of goods sold. Ganun lang siya kadali, di ba? Okay. While for your manufacturing firms, so ayan, so tatlong T accounts, okay? Feel free to go back to our earlier videos. Then you should also know what's the difference of a controlling account versus subsidiary account. So like for example, in materials, you have one controlling account for materials, and then there are other subsidiary account for your materials, even for labor and overhead. We should also know what are stores account and store ledger cards, okay, especially for materials and overhead. Work in process account and the job cost sheet. Ayan, later I'm going to show you an example for the job cost sheet. As of this point, okay, I just want you to know that this is the form, okay, you can call it form, okay, used to accumulate the cost in job order costing, okay, and the counterpart of that for process costing is the CPR, your cost of production report. Ayan. Now you should also know what are finished goods, okay, and the finished goods ledger card. How does it look like? Then other controlling accounts such as your factory overhead, selling expense, G&A expense, okay, which are supported by subsidiary ledgers and may be used for both periodic and perpetual inventory systems, okay. Anyway, they don't affect naman. They don't affect the value of your inventories. Ayan na. Okay, may katuloy pa pala. Okay, you should also know how actual and applied factory overhead is charged to production, and we have a separate discussion for accounting for overhead. Pero as of this point, it will help if you can start um, searching. Ayan, mag-research na kayo dito. Parang advanced reading assignment na ninyo, no? Yung difference ng actual and applied factory overhead. And then how do you dispose the difference of the two? Because you may have an over-applied or under-applied factory overhead. Ayan, dami yung reading assignment. What's the factory ledger and the general ledger? Okay, you should also know what are transfer vouchers, okay, and review your cheat sheets. Cheat sheets from the non-cost system, okay, coming from our earlier discussion. Ito, mabilis lang. Okay, difference of job order costing. Ayan, for job order costing, costs are accumulated by products or batches. Ayan. And by department naman or by process if we are using the process costing. That's the main difference, no? And here are some more difference. So as to the nature of the product, okay, for job order costing, products or batches can be easily identified and differentiated from each other. Dito yung pumapasok yung heterogeneous term na yan. Okay, like for example, if we are into magandang example dito si Reed's Buttery. Ayan, Reed's, yung mga matagal na dito sa Baguio. And Reed's Buttery, gumagawa sila ng boots, pa-customize. So for every set that they do, it's unique, and different from the earlier boots that they make. Ayan, so it can be easily differentiated. Heterogeneous, magkakaiba sila ng features, no? Not like process costing, their products are homogeneous, okay? Homogeneous daw. Homogeneous. This means that the products are not distinguishable from each other. So for example, if your product is sardines, di ba? Kapag nag-produce ka, parang pare-pareho lang sardinas lahat 'yan, okay? Meron kang standard na sinusunod. Okay po? So, ayun. If that's the nature of your product, then you use process costing. If your products are unique, okay, most of the time tailored according to the needs of your customers, then you use your job order costing. And then meron din tayong tinatawag na hybrid, no? Meron din tayong tinatawag na hybrid. Kumbaga parang combination ng job order costing and process costing. But we'll talk about that soon. Importante as of this point out, alam natin yung difference ng dalawang ito. Okay, another difference, ito pa, mga examples, customized shoes, made to order boats, houses, fabricated factory machines, di ba? specialized yan. Ito na, you have beverages, cosmetic products, canned goods, refined sweeteners. And of course, there are more. Yan, other differences, cost accumulation and reporting. Okay, for job order, they are accumulated by job. When we say by job, okay, it could be by batch or by product. Process costing naman, costs are accumulated by departments. Ito na yung clue natin. So, if costs are accumulated by jobs or by product, each job or each product will have their own work in process account. Diba? For process costing naman, each department will have their own work in process account. Okay, so yan. Work in process department A, work in process department B. So yung output ni A magiging input ni B. Yan, work in process department C. Dito naman, work in process product 1, work in process product 2. When is unit cost computed? Only upon completion. This one, even if it's not yet completed, basta at the end of the accounting period, you can now compute for the unit cost. So how do you compute for your unit cost? Here you have the total production cost divided by the number of units produced. Here you have your total department cost divided by the EUP. Naku, medyo masakit sa ulo to. Equivalent units of production. Ayun. And then, subsidiary record for work in process. Ito, ayan. You have your job cost sheet, which is similar to, in substance, no? In substance, it's your work in process. Dito naman, you have your cost of production report. Ayan. Parang work in process din yan. And then, the primary objective, okay, for job order costing, the primary objective is you should be able to compute for the cost of each job and cost of each product made for the customers. Here, you should be able to compute for the cost charged to each production process. Magkano ba yung na-incur natin for process number 1, process number 2, ganun, and so on and so forth. Bilis, no? We're almost done. This is now your cheat sheet. Ayan, pag-aralan ninyo mabuti. If you try to look at this is already a summary, no, of the cost flows in job order costing. Now you have the following T accounts which will allow you to reconstruct the journal entries. Ano yung debit at ano yung credit. Okay. So like for example here in number 4, okay, your materials used, no, went to your work in process. O alam ka agad natin. Debit to work in process inventory and credit raw materials inventory. O, di ba? So, ayun. Now, for our entries, there are two kinds of entries, no? You have the entries for accumulation and entries for assignment. When we say entries for accumulation, okay, these are your initial entries to record the cost incurred. Like, for example, purchase of raw materials, when you incur factory labor, or for example, when you incur manufacturing overhead, nandiyan naman yan, 1, 2, 3, okay. And then for assignment naman, this is when you transfer the cost from one account to another account. For example, number 4, this is an entry of assignment, okay, when you assign the cost of raw materials used to your work in process. Okay? So, ayun, ulitin natin. For accumulation, kunyari, let's try to use the blue ink. Okay, sabi ng blue, ayan. For accumulation, it's 1, 2, and 3. Nag-purchase ka. Okay, that's cost incurred. May ginastos kang factory labor. Okay. And then you incurred manufacturing overhead. Diba? Direct labor, and then, yan, mga overhead. Pati to, no? Pati to. Pero ito kasi, your indirect materials used, okay, may be considered as an assignment kasi your raw materials inventory will also include direct and indirect materials. Nandyan din yung supply natin. So, from materials used, ito yung direct materials. Dito naman papasok yung indirect materials. So, ina-assign natin, no, from raw materials to overhead. Ayun, sana nasundan ninyo. Ito naman, from factory overhead, from factory labor, you have your direct labor and indirect labor. your direct labor is assigned to your work in process, while the indirect labor will now go to your manufacturing overhead. Okay, so this one can also be used as uh, entries for accumulation. O di ba? At that point parang medyo may konting nakakalito kasi assignment siya sa part na to, okay, sa 4 and 5, pero pagdating dito sa debit area parang entry siya to accumulate kasi naiipon na naman yung cost mo. And then that accumulated cost will now be assigned, will now be assigned to your work in process. So ito, assign mo na naman. Yung cost of work in process na na-incur pero natapos na, i-assign na natin sa finished goods. And so on and so forth. This is the basic flow for job order costing. So now, since we have discussed earlier that under job order costing, costs are accumulated by product and each product will have their own work in process. Imagine if you have three products that are simultaneously produced, no? So you expect that this will be work in process product 1 or job order 1. Okay. And then you have another T account siguro, work in process for job number 2, work in process for job number 3. Kunyari, ito, sapatos, boots, sandals, and low-cut boots. Yung mga ganun. Okay po. So that's your cheat sheet for job order costing. This is your cheat sheet for process costing. Sulat na nga natin. Okay. Kunyari, maganda yung sulat ko. Now, from your manufacturing cost, di ba, pupunta yan sa work in process. Pero, look at this, machining department. And then, another work in process for the assembly department. Okay, so this is under the assumption that we only have 2 processes. So if you have 5 processes, there will be 5 work-in processes. And then pag natapos na, it will now go to your finished goods. At pag nabenta, it will go to your cost of goods sold. This one is an example of your job cost sheet. Okay? Yung ginagamit natin to accumulate cost under job order costing. We will have more examples of that soon. No? As of this point, feel free to pause the video and take a screenshot. Tingnan niyo kung ano yung mga basic elements niya. Di-discuss natin lahat yan soon. Okay, and then tingnan niyo sa dulo. No? Okay, this is the main objective, to come up or for us to be able to compute for the unit cost. Okay, so paano nasabi costs are accumulated in the job cost sheet? Yes, all costs incurred, no, pertaining to direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Yung total manufacturing cost natin, dito natin ilalagay. Ayan, and then we get the totals. Okay, and then we divide it by the number of units produced, di ba? So dito, dyan na yung quantity mo. Paggawa ako ng sapatos, pero 4 na pares. Ayan. Okay, and lastly, this is an example of a cost of production report. Cost of production report. Di ba? Nakaka-pressure, no? Ang daming numbers, pero chill lang. Hindi kayo matututo kapag masyado kayo na-pressure. As of this point, gusto ko lang malaman ninyo na may mga basic features yan. Okay, yung quantities na produce mo, yung cost na na-incur natin, and then you're going to reconcile, no, yung mga costs incurred. Okay, and then at the end, you're going to compute for the unit cost. No, not the unit cost, but the cost incurred per department. Okay, ito hindi kompleto. No, hindi ko pinakita yung buo kasi it might overwhelm you. Baka mag-panic kayo kaagad. Okay. As of this point, parang ganyan yung itsura niya. Okay. So, I guess that's it. Okay. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Okay. Don't hesitate to ask them in our chat section, in our Canvas. No, okay, para mas masaya. And again, I prefer if you ask questions during our class hours, okay? Though I'm not discouraging you to ask questions beyond our class hours, it's just that I may not be able to answer them on time, no? So I cannot give you that guarantee. Okay po, so I will see you soon.